Thank you for giving me your Saturday. Thank you for caring about a plant-based lifestyle and wanting to learn more. Let's get into it because there is a lot of information going on. Okay, what is the state of the plant-based union? Okay, so we have the plant-based food industry, but it includes a lot of different vectors, if you will. So one of the things that I love about talking about this is that food, of course, is our life. It touches everything we do. It's science, food, technology, finance, it's our health, it's our healthcare system, it's how we interrelate, it's our culture, it's our tradition, it's our legal system. What doesn't touch in some way the food system? So we're going to get into it all because it's all firing at the same moment. So it's almost hard to keep track of what's going on. So let's try to do that today. We live in very exciting times. Okay, so what is driving all the plant-based interest? It's really everybody's health. Everybody cares most about their health. I'd love to say that they care about the environment. I'd love to say that they care about animals, but it's really their health. I'm fine with that. I'll take it where I can get it. Flexitarians, I love you. We have one flexitarian in the audience. I love flexitarians. They are the ones who are really making the difference. It's give or take still about 3% vegan for the US population, about 6% vegetarian, but the demographic that's flexitarian and making the most dollar significant change is 32% of the flexitarians. Okay, 65% of Americans, this is interesting I think, are lactose intolerant. That comes from the Washington Post and Switch for Good. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And as of Forbes, about a week ago, 63% of millennials are trying to work more plants into their lifestyle. So you're seeing more and more people do this, and it's primarily for their health, and it's driven by millennials. They really are the flexitarians. And a flexitarian, who knows what a flexitarian is? Oh, you crazy people. Okay, a flexitarian is a meat eater who's trying to work in more plants or eat less meat, or someone who just, does meatless Mondays only, or they're vegetarian, but every once in a while they'll have fish. So it can run the gamut from, I eat a lot of meat and I'm trying to eat less, or I eat just a little bit of meat every once in a while. And it's growing. This stat may be hard to see from where you are, but the only important thing to know here is from the Good Food Institute. This line of meat eaters, it's not that tall, 71% of them, they're going from 71% to 55% who are trying to work in plants. So basically what I'm saying is 22.5% of meat eaters are trying to work in more plants. That's a lot of people who are starting to buy less meat. And that's really when you want change. That's really what's the important thing to remember. So hold on to that. 22.5% of meat eaters are buying less meat. Just hold on to that stat. Okay, so we're talking about our health. People care about their health. So of late, because media has a funny way of pandering to, just going for the headline, we'll say. So recently, they've been saying, oh yeah, plant-based options, but are they healthy? Are they healthy? Well, let's get into it, people. Let's look at it. Okay, so saturated fat from oregano hamburger and Beyond Meat, I just picked Beyond Meat, give or take, it's going to be the same for Impossible and other things. Saturated fat is about the same, protein is about the same, maybe even better. Salt is about the same, maybe a little worse. It is a processed food after all. Calories, give or take, the same. Here's where we start to shine, the royal we. Cholesterol, much better on a plant-based burger. I just learned this. I'm sort of amazed to have to say this. Meat has no fiber. Did you guys know that? Did you really fully know? Meat has no fiber. Well, you can't be healthy without fiber. It doesn't work. So you're not going to get a whole heck of a lot of fiber. It is a processed food in a plant-based burger, but you are going to get some fiber. TMAO, trimethylene and oxide, is something that animals make that we don't want in our system, very negative for us. Animal heme is something that is in animal blood, actually, I believe. You don't want that either. I get that information from Dr. Kim Williams, who's the past president of the American College of Cardiologists. He's the current head of Rush Cardiology Department. So he was telling telling you about TMAO and animal heme, the reason I have a question mark for impossible is because impossible has patented a vegetable heme. Jury is out on what that does for you. We don't know yet. So no hormones, no antibiotics, very good for the environment, and animal welfare obviously much better. So I would say they're even or we do better. So that answers, just in case, a lot of what I'm giving you today is just in case you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, yeah, but is it healthy? Or I saw in the Wall Street Journal that we should be eating red meat. A lot of this presentation is just giving you information to give back to people. Okay, so yes, is it healthy? Maybe that's a stretch. Is it healthier? Yes, it is healthier. Okay, we're done there. Okay, now this, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm not that great at tech stuff. Let's just see. Okay, I'm 5'2", so don't take my word for it. Take the word of a 4-time NBA basketball champ who's 6'7" and see what he has to say about fiber. I don't know how to do it.
Skip the ad.
I know, but I can't hit skip. Okay. Hold on, people. Well,
Are you trying to full screen it?
nobody really knows. Sorry, I'm not a tech person. It maybe didn't work. Oh, that's too bad. Funny it worked at home. Okay, so I'm not sure how to give you that video. That's too bad. I will send, I'll probably get everybody's email who's here, so I'll send you the link to this video. It's really great to hear John Sally, 4-time NBA champ, talk about where he gets his fiber and why it's so important to him. So another reason, just keep in mind as you get that question, what about protein? Where do you get your protein? Okay, well maybe what you really need to care about is where you get your fiber. Okay, but it's not just our health. So people are starting to make note that it's the health of the planet. So there was a peer-reviewed life cycle analysis done by the University of Michigan. They did it on Beyond Meat just to see how much better is the product if they're all for the environment. So Beyond Meat burger is going to have 99% less water. It's going to use 99% less water, 93% less land, emit 90% fewer greenhouse gas emissions, and take up 40% less energy. So as we move towards hopefully a world that cares about its environment, is looking for ways to save the environment, to move forward, here you have only like good, A+, stats. Okay, so, okay, I lost my clicker. Let's see what I can do. Okay, but it's not just the University of Michigan. This is a direct quote. It comes from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They put out a report last October and then again just in August. Balanced diets featuring plant-based foods such as coarse grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, and animal-sourced food produced sustainably in low greenhouse gas emission systems present major opportunities for adaptation and to limiting climate change. So the IPCC, which is I believe 52 countries, got together and said, obviously it's not just our agricultural system, it's also our buildings and our transportation, but of the 5 main tenets that we need to work on, it is animal agriculture, shifting away from animal agriculture, shifting to a plant-based diet, and changing how we farm. We'll get into that later because that's a big one. But it's not just the University of Michigan. Okay, so again, according to Forbes, millennials get this. 60% of millennials realize that their food choices have an impact on the environment. I think that's incredible because I couldn't have said that 5 years ago. I could not find anybody 3 years ago who could make that connection. So people are starting to get it. According to Food Navigator, US.com, 44% of millennials make their food decisions based on the environment. Equally exciting, this study comes from Sweet Earth, which is owned by Nestle. In the same study, 37% of people make their choices of millennials make their choices on animal welfare. So I think that is very inspiring, hopeful. You look at Greta Thunberg. I would like her to talk about animal agriculture more. She used to talk about it a lot. She's been talking about it less and less, which is very strange. Maybe we can talk about that at the end. But she does talk about it at least more than Jane Fonda. So here you can look at the sort of difference between the generations. Jane Fonda, when asked about it, she said, well, that's not enough, that's not really going to do much, and she hasn't really talked about it at all. Whereas Greta at least was talking about it quite a bit, and then of late has not backtracked in that she's saying anything against it contributing to the environment, which just hasn't been as vocal. But still, I think they, the contrast between the two shows the difference in generations. Okay. So, a lot of what we're talking about today is a push and a pull effect. Some things are pushing us towards a plant-based diet, some things are pulling us towards a plant-based diet. So we have an environmental push. So we're going to 10 billion, 11 billion, they say 10.7 billion people by 2050, if not sooner than that. So we're not getting more land and we're not getting more water. We're just getting more people. So, right now we're at 7.7. So we're going through a huge 25%, if not more, increase, but we don't have more land and we don't have more water. In addition, let's go through some of these. So we right now plant a lot of corn, soy, and wheat. Instead of taking that food and giving it to people, because wheat and soy have a lot of protein and corn has natural carbohydrates, they all do, and great fiber. No. Instead of giving that to people, we give that to animals, and then animals give us, and this is the best equation there is, animals give us 1 calorie for every 9 that we give them. So no business person would ever sign up for that kind of equation where you're putting 9 in and you get 1 back. So that's awful. You give somebody 90 cents, you get a dime back. No one signs up for that. So they're very inefficient. And of course, in addition, we don't use all of the animal. You're not eating hooves and ears and teeth and blood. And so there's a lot of waste. I mean, I know there is some recycling, if you will, for things like tar and tires and this kind of stuff. But even to make that transition to tar and tires and other things, lots of pollution. So, what do you do with all that waste? There's like 100 billion animals slaughtered every year for 7 billion people on the planet. I'm not kidding. I'm including fish in that, but 100 billion to 7, you're talking about enormous amounts of waste. Where do we process all that waste? We don't even really process it. Like if you go to pig farms, they're not even really processing the waste. They're adding water to the manure. I'm getting this from What the Hell, if anybody saw that movie. They're adding water to the manure and they're spraying it back into the community. That's why those communities have higher cancer in those communities, and then in addition, we know that higher alcoholism, anybody who lives around a slaughterhouse, higher alcoholism, higher domestic abuse, domestic violence, awful jobs. Those really are awful jobs. So the environmental push and the business push about how ineffective and inefficient and bad for us this is there. Okay, now let's talk about the fun one. I am not in the right. Okay, well, anyways, this was supposed to be dynamic, but I don't know. I've somehow, when I went back to the video, I've lost it. You know what to do? Okay, well, while he's doing that, I'll at least talk about this. I love this slide because you can't tell right now, but this is actually a super funny slide. Okay, January of 2019, so the red over there is the red here. GFI, Good Food Institute, along with, good job. Oh, wow! Okay, no, this is good. This is good in theory. So you guys know what's going on here? Okay. Yes. Oh, thank you. Could have never done it myself. Okay, January, this year, GFI says, the plant-based meat business is going to be about $6 billion by 2022. Hold on to your bootstraps. By May, they're saying, actually, it's going to be 28 by 2025. That comes from Research and Markets. No, hold on. Same month, we're still in May. They say, actually, Business Insider says, it's not GFI, the Food Institute. Business Insider says, actually, by 2030, it's going to be 85. No, hold on. In there, we had an IPO. So now everybody's saying September of 2019, Market Watch is saying it's going to be 140. Nuh-uh. By same month, September of 2019, just like 4 weeks ago, the Good Food Institute was saying in Bloomberg that it's going to be 240 million by 2040. Okay, so it's like every month it's, So, okay, that's the pull. I'd love to say, even more than health, I'd love to say that animals. No, they really care about money. So if the environment is pushing you away, that's just not an efficient equation anymore, the money, the possibility to make money by going into this business is pulling people into it. People care about money. And why? Oh, it's because of Beyond Meat. It's because of Beyond Meat. So that IPO happened. We've had more press in the vegetarian, plant-based, vegan community than we've ever had anywhere. And it's constant, daily, so much so that backlash press has come out. We'll talk about that. Recently this week, there's been some backlash press against red meat. But in May, I believe it was, the IPO happened for Beyond Meat, and it was the most successful IPO since 2008. In one day, it went up 163%. If you were to look at, and I don't have this slide, but if you were to compare to Uber and other IPOs that happened this year, Uber's way down from their starting point. And Beyond Meat, which started at 25, I believe is like 170, 180, 168. Used to be like 212. It's been bouncing around there. So that's a good thing. But it's on everybody's radar now. Okay, so this slide and the next slide are just happy stats. This is like the happiest part of the whole presentation. This is when you get to just have like fun stats all the way through. Okay, 228 million burgers were sold in the first half of 2019 compared to 2018. 268% more plant-based meats were sold in restaurants, same period, half of 2019 to 2018. This is so fun. KFC wanted to test out some Beyond Meat in Atlanta. They sold out in 5 hours. They sold as much Beyond Meat chicken wings and chicken strips as they do of popcorn chicken, the actual chicken, in a week. In 5 hours, they sold out a week's supply. In St. Louis, the Impossible Burger tested the Impossible Whopper. For the month that they tested it in St. Louis, it went up, their business went up 28%, whereas McDonald's in the same city at the same time only went up 2%. Del Taco said that their Beyond Meat taco was the most successful launch they've ever had. The Imposter Burger at KFC in London sold out a month's supply in 4 days. It was 500% more than anticipated. This is just like joy, joy, joy. Grubhub tells us that vegan options are up 25%, and that the most popular item of anything, plant-based or not plant-based, is the Impossible Burger for late night. This is a really fun one. Global Meat News, which is something I'm not familiar with, it's an online magazine. Global Meat News found that there was so much interest from their magazine subscribers, who are meat suppliers, meat ranchers, meat processors. There's so much interest from their members that they put on their own plant-based conference so that those meat producers could figure out how to get into the plant-based business. They did this in Amsterdam, and one of the things that it was sold out, one of the things that came out of that conference that I thought was fun is that they were saying London, which is such a hub, 1 out of every 4 meals, period, regardless of generation, is plant-based. I think that's pretty fun. Okay, I was just at the Good Food Institute conference, and it used to be very much like what is the value of the plant-based meat industry. It used to be that milk was thought to be, plant-based milk was thought to be 13% of the milk industry. Now, that was 15% around May when Beyond Meat had an IPO. Now they're saying it's 19%. You're seeing things like plant-based yogurt, which is up 55%, plant-based ice cream up 40%, plant-based creamer up 62%. So we're moving beyond just the milks, and this is a wonderful thing. And now this is maybe the most important thing. Rethink X is a think tank, and they said that by 2030, it's basically going to be a death spiral for meat and dairy, that they'll no longer be in existence. And why is this? They think it's because of precision biology. We're going to be able to create protein so efficiently that your protein is basically going to cost the amount that sugar costs. And here's the big thing. Meat and dairy run on such a thin margin that when you start taking those flexitarian dollars, and that's really the most important thing, those flexitarian dollars, 22% and a half, we talked about this in the beginning, 22.5% of the meat industry that is shifting its purchasing power. That's enough to destabilize meat and dairy because they run on very, very thin margins. So let's get into our fun facts. Okay, I'll just run through this. You know industry wants in, of course. There's money to be made here. We talked about that. So the plant-based companies that used to be plant-based and are now owned by meat, there have been a lot of mergers. So Life Light and Field Roast, they're owned by Maple Leaf. That's a meat company in Canada. Sweet Earth is owned by Nestle. Obviously, that's dairy. Gardein is owned by Conagra. Morningstar is owned by Kellogg's. And So Delicious and White Wave are owned by Dannon. Dannon obviously being dairy. So, but here's interesting, Trader Joe's is getting into it, and so is Kroger's. And I welcome all the plant-based competition, all the businesses, even better. The more, because what you really want to see is the real estate in the grocery store change. You want to see that shift, and the more real estate we have for plant-based items, the more, I'll talk about this a little later too, but the more it's not going to be this vegan, vegetarian section over here, the more it's going to be a protein aisle. So you're not going to have the meat aisle or the meat case. You're going to have the protein aisle and the protein case. And people can decide, do they want Beyond Meat or something else? And it'll be right in front of them. That's what you've got right now, Beyond Meat or meat. But it's going to be Beyond Meat and Kroger's meat. And Smithfield has a fresh burger that they're coming out with. Smithfield, the Chinese company that owns all the pig farming. So you're going to see more and more in the fresh meat case. And it's no longer going to be called meat, it's going to be called protein. That's my recommendation. That's my prediction. Okay, but to do this, really you're going to see a lot of meat companies buy up more plant-based companies. Because one of the problems is, for this to really work for us to have a lot of plant-based options, is you have to be able to scale up. And who's got the distribution, who's got the money, who's got the connections with the grocery stores across the US? It's going to be the meat companies. So you're going to see a lot of meat companies either invest in or buy up the plant-based companies. So Tyson was an investor in Beyond Meat, very fun, sort of funny, interesting, whatever, fact of life. They got out of the IPO right before it went IPO, and they're still kicking themselves. Now they're into something called New Wave Foods, that's seafood. You're going to see a lot more plant-based seafood coming up. That's a big, big area. Cargill is now investing in Purus. Purus is pea protein, because if we're going to make more plant-based items, it's not just enough to have the consumer product. You have to be able to scale it, and you have to be able to get all of the supplies. So Cargill is investing in Purus. JBS had a plant-based burger launched in Brazil. Purdue's coming out with something called blended products. I'm not quite sure I understand why the heck they're doing that. We can talk about that in a little bit. And in addition to the meat companies buying up, you're seeing a lot of more companies launch. Okay, this is just a graph to show you kind of what I already said. Dan brought up White Wave, Maple Leaf brought up Field Roast, so you can sort of see Dean Foods bought out Good Karma. I do love Good Karma. So Daiya, no longer plant-based in terms of their owner. So, okay, you get me. And lots more products are going to come. Who's heard of Fava Butter? Fava Butter is an industrial, love them. They've been on my podcast, Awesome Vegans. Something that Kay mentioned is that I host a podcast, and the podcast is called Awesome Vegans. You can get it anywhere, iTunes, Spotify, my website, ElysabethAlfano.com. I interviewed these two guys, 25 years old, new food tech guys. What they're doing is a butter on an industrial scale, so that industrial bakers, the crafts of the world, can use their butter instead of butter. So you're talking large scale, fewer clients, but large scale orders. It's not open to the public. I do love them. Mrs. Goldfarb's, who's heard of Mrs. Goldfarb's? Vegan corned beef. So that's coming, hopefully nationally right now. It's launched in Los Angeles. Wild Earth is vegan dog food. I just interviewed Ryan Betancourt on my podcast, Awesome Vegans. He is so wonderful. Outstanding foods. They do mushroom chips, which is interesting. And then Cool Beans. Who's heard of Cool Beans? Yay, launches in January, a Chicago company. They are focused on whole food, plant-based wraps and burritos. But really whole food, not processed. You can see the peas right in it and the carrots and the other ingredients. Very good. I just taste tested it. Super yummy. I'll come back to that later side. So since I'm on the slide of companies, this is what Chicago's got going on. So Chicago's always been a food hub. For those of you watching on Jane Unchained, this slide is just about Chicago. So, and hi to Jane Unchained, by the way. Okay, who's heard of sustainable bioproducts? Okay, so awesome. Sustainable bioproducts is all about growing microbes. A microbe is not a plant and it's not an animal. It's somewhere in the middle, basically closer to a mushroom. If you imagine that to grow meat, you need a cow. The cow has to be impregnated. That takes months, and then you have to fatten it up. And you're talking a year at least plus. You can grow the same amount of meat from one cow. You can grow that with microbes in 3 hours. So very fascinating biotech right here in Chicago. At the same time, I'll talk about this biotech. Back of the yards, they're growing algae. Algae can be used as another form of protein, so super fantastic. We'll move from protein to sugar. Dandy's marshmallows, who doesn't love them? Milkadania is here. Light Life, Field Roast, headquartered here in a company called Greenleaf, which is owned by Maple Leaf, which is Canada neat. Cool Beans is here and it's launching in January. Corn, their American headquarters, it's a European company, their American headquarters is here. Upton's, of course, natural, we all know. Omnipresent Fibers around, which is here in the area, and they do plant-based fillers. And I think we can call Quaker, they're not vegan officially, but, you know, oats. And I mean, if you look at some of their packets of oatmeal, of course, it's going to have a little whey in it depending on what SKU you buy. But, and okay, well, that's GMOs, yes, different conversation. But
They also have honey sometimes.
Wheats are GMO.
Yeah.
Oh,
Quaker uses GMO.
What now?
Then it also sometimes, like some of the crops have honey or something.
Yes, right. So you've got to be careful. But primarily, I'll sort of give them that. Okay, let me go back.
There's 2 other companies. One is Phoenix Bean, which makes tofu. It's a Chicago
Phoenix
company.
Bean is in Chicago?
Yeah, and they
Oh,
make
yes.
the tofu for Eli's cheesecake.
Oh,
Eli's
nice.
vegan cheesecake.
Okay.
And then Teas, the company that
Oh,
makes
yes.
cheese.
Well, they're Dandies. Yes,
Yeah,
they're one and the same.
Right.
But I didn't know, yes, so the company that makes teas, and I think they're making less and less of that, is called Chicago Vegan Foods, and their primary product really is Dandy's marshmallows. Phoenix Beans.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
Phoenix Bean.
On Broadway. Yeah.
Phoenix
Yeah.
Bean.
North Broadway.
What
But
on that?
some of their stuff doesn't say, GMO for, doesn't tell you whether it's
Okay.
not organic a lot.
Okay, noted, I like it.
Yeah.
Here are my predictions, just because I'm talking about business, and then we'll move on to some other things. I think I told you, protein aisle is coming, that's what I think. It's not going to be the meat aisle anymore, it's going to be the protein aisle. Really, my big prediction is China. So, China has a lot of food insecurity. Only 11% of the land is arable land that they can actually grow stuff. I think they would have taken a much stronger tact in the trade negotiations if they didn't have to worry so much about food. I think China, which is already good in the tech space, I think they're going to move immediately to cellular agriculture. Do you guys know what cellular agriculture is? Cellular agriculture is when you take the cells from an animal. You don't have to have that animal in a factory farm or anything. You can grow that meat in a petri dish or larger vat, like a huge beer vat, and you can grow just what you need. Remember we talked about you don't need the ears, you don't need the blood, you don't need the hooves. You can grow just the shank or I don't know my meat because I don't eat meat, but you just grow the thing, right? Just grow the thing that you want, and I think that would really behoove China. It would get them, it would eliminate any medical costs that they're going to have when you start feeding people meat and dairy, because they never used to have a diet full of meat and dairy. Now they're going to have a diet full of meat and dairy, which means, because they're getting wealthier, which means then you're going to have a bunch of health problems. So you save on healthcare, and then you also get rid of this food insecurity. So, and a lot of vegan products are already there, and by 2020 they should have about 20 million vegans. That's 2/3 of the U.S. So, of course, we recommend. I think I mentioned this already. I think you're going to see a lot more plant-based seafood. Seafood is still really a growing demand across the world. So if you look at Asia and countries like that, huge demand for seafood. There's just not enough. Like at the Good Food Institute conference, they were saying, please people, get your thinking caps on and bring the entrepreneurs to this space. We need more plant-based seafood. So I think you're going to see, and there's money for that. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And I think shaped meats are coming. We've been talking about it. Where's the T-bone steak? Where's the ribs? Where's the bacon? That's coming. Blended products. So Purdue is doing something. I don't know how this is going to go down. In fact, I'd love your opinion on this. Purdue is doing something that is half vegetables, half meat. And their marketing campaign, I think it's called Purdue Chicken Plus. And their marketing campaign is, you can't get your kids to eat your vegetables, now you don't have to. We've got it right here in the nugget for you. Obviously, no one in this room is going to go for that, but I think it's very confusing to the buyer. So if you say it's a plant-based nugget, I don't know how they're going to regulate that, but it's got meat in it. But it's plant-forward. They're calling it a plant-based product. Jury is out. I actually don't think it's a good business move. And in fact, my thought there is that they're biding their time. They don't have the technology, and they don't want to buy other technology. They don't want to merge and buy somebody up. So they're buying their time by getting into the space by saying, oh yeah, we're plant-forward. They just haven't figured it out yet. So I think it's just a matter of time until they actually get like a real plant-based product. Yes?
It certainly could be wrong, but they've already been doing it now. It's called fillers. You know, when you buy, when you eat a chicken nugget or anything where it's a compound meat, there's already starches and plant matter that's already in there. They're just capitalizing on the wave and making what they've already been doing cool and
Yeah, it's marketing. Yeah, it's marketing. But I think this is a way for them, you tell me what you think, this is a way for them to buy time until they figure out how to really get in, you know?
I mean, it's just market share.
Just market
They're
share.
already doing it. They might also be seeing it as a trend because you hear that a lot. Oh, it's just a plant-based trend, you know, it's gonna go away. So for now, we'll just, you know, make it go up like we're
Yes.
part of that. But yeah, I mean,
We'll see.
market's totally changing. I mean, mine end up, you know, going plant-based.
Yes. So when I give this talk next year, because you know things are changing like by the week, we'll look at this. We'll see where we are with blended products. I talked about that one. Okay, but it's not enough to have the products. The real problem is you have to scale up. This is really the thing that you got to look at. So there is continued innovation. More and more products are coming. It's not that. And we've nailed taste. People care about health, okay, and then taste, price, and convenience. But to get the price down, you got to scale up. And to get the scale up, you got to get all the supplies and you got to have the distribution models. You know, Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, they both had trouble there. And they came out on the successful end, but smaller companies aren't going to be able to do this. A lot of the small existing plant-based companies are not going to be able to do it. They're going to need to be bought out. So it's not that easy and it's not enough, is what I'm saying. It's just not enough to have. This is too bad because this is a great video, but okay. It's just not enough. So you've got to think bigger than just where are the products. You've got to think, how does the whole system work together? So Josh Tetrick, and I just interviewed him on the podcast, Awesome Vegans, and he was saying that who's had Just Eggs? Yeah, not Just Eggs, Just Eggs. Okay, so it's those liquid eggs that are made out of mung bean, basically. So he was saying that he sees Just Eggs like Coca-Cola, in that he's not going to bottle it here and sell it. He's going to send the base of the formula to other countries. They can add water and bottle it on location. So you'll save in transportation, and then you'll be able to feed the world really inexpensively. And that's, in addition to animal welfare and the environment, that's one of his goals, is he really wants to get food to places in Africa, et cetera, where you can't. So you have to rethink the entire model. Okay, so we're kind of talking about complete and total disruption. So it's, when we talk about scalability, we also need to think, okay, if we're going to be making more and more plant-based products, then we need more and more plant-based supplies. So then we have to farm more and more, plant-based supplies. So how do we go, for example, from an animal farm to a mushroom farm? Okay, but a lot of that land has already been compromised because of too much, let's say chicken manure. So how do you take a chicken farm and move it to a mushroom farm? So, you're going to have to rebuild the whole, it's almost like a Buckminster Fuller situation. Forget trying to make it better. You almost have to start from scratch. And to do that, you're talking about regenerative agriculture. You're talking about getting away from, part of our environmental problem is that we have monocropped so much. Like we talked about before, we make corn, we make soy, we make wheat. Do we give it to people? No. We give it to animals. And because we have such a bad equation, 9 calories of the grain for 1 calorie of protein, we have to make a lot more of those grains. We have so monocropped the soil that the soil is eroding. When it does that, it gives off gas, and that just starts one of our problems. So we have to stop, even if we're in a plant-based situation, we have to stop only growing the 3 things. We have to look at rapeseed and mung bean and a more diverse rotating crop. Okay, to do that, what kind of seed science, what kind of agricultural technology? Are we starting to look at vertical farms so that we don't take up as much land? It is complete and total disruption. And the reason that this is important is because when you start to think, oh, we got this. Somebody was just saying right before we started, oh, but there's been so much interest in plant-based. I mean, come on, plant-based, everyone's getting the word. Ugh, you know, there's a lot of resistance, not just in the press, but also what it's going to take foundationally to change. You have to change the whole food system. So it's not small. And when you think of okay, so let's say you want to start growing organic and you want to move that chicken farm to an organic mushroom farm. Well, to do organic, you don't have pesticides. If you don't have pesticides, you can't get crop insurance. If you don't get crop insurance, you can't get a bank loan. You see what I'm saying? The whole thing starts to crumble. So, and I think starting next year, I've been told, you're going to start to see a lot of farm bankruptcies because those meat and dairy margins are so thin, and because the plant-based flexible, see how it all works together, the flexitarian market is taking that thin margin away, the farmer is really going to start crumbling. But this might be a good thing because it might force that farmer into other areas. I mean, all of us in this room, I'm sure, are pro-farmer. I mean, I'd much rather give my money to the vegetable farmer than to the doctor and pills and pharmaceuticals. So nobody wants to see the farmer hurt. It's just a matter of how do we help them? What programs are going to be in place to switch the farming to another area? Or do we give up all together and we go with cellular agriculture, which of course you have no hormones, no antibiotics, no pesticides. You control the sun, you control the wind, you never have a bad crop, you grow as much as you need. Yeah. Okay, and jobs. So how do we shift these jobs? I mean, we're talking about total and complete disruption. Jobs. Let's talk about a nice thing about jobs. Lifelight, one of our hometown companies, they spent $310 million on the largest plant-based only plant in the United States. It opens in 2020. It's 230,000 square feet, and it's 460 jobs right in the heart of animal agriculture in Indiana. If you assume a household of 4 people, 460 jobs is give or take 1,800 people. 1,800 people are now reliant on a paycheck. That makes people switch to plant-based. That makes people really love plant-based all of a sudden. Okay, so we've talked about business and technology and new food products and changing the system. And that's where we are now. I think I read an article in Barron's that was saying there are 5 great investment opportunities. One is plant-based, one is agricultural technology, one is seed science, one is seed treatment, and one is delivery service, because millennials want their food fast and they don't want to wait. So that's the 5th. And actually, when I was talking to Lisa Faria, who is the CEO of Stray Dog Capital, they invest in a lot of these young plant-based businesses. She was saying not only are we at a tipping point and that consumers are really ready for plant-based products, and that's due to Beyond Meat being in the meat case. Got so many ideas coming out of my mouth at once, but I'm backtracking a bit. But we talked about how strong the plant-based meat market is. It's really the consumer mental shift because they saw plant-based meat next to fresh meat in the fresh meat case. That one move that Beyond Meat held out for, that has shifted the American psyche to thinking, oh, I get it. Because people do what they know, right? That's just basic psychology. People do what they know and they're familiar with. And when you can see meat next to meat, plant-based meat next to meat, you move on that. Anyways, Lisa Faria was saying we're at this tipping point, and I was saying something else about jobs and technology. There's so much information. Are you guys able to follow me? It's a lot of information. Okay. It's a very exciting time. Okay, I'm sure my idea will come back to me. Okay, but it's not just tech and new of the new young vegan companies you're going to see come up are snacks. They're all snack based because millennials tend to do a lot of snacking for the same reason that they want to be fast. Okay, but it's not all health, medical, environment, and business and technology and growing. Although that's what we usually think of. Then there's this next layer of stuff that's going on around the world that I'm going to call a push. Remember we talked about the environment and bad business is pushing us, good business is pulling us, our health is pushing us out of meat, business is pulling us into meat. Politics. I am annoyed that there aren't more politicians talking about this for 2020. I am inspired that some politicians are. Here's a quote from Israel, which is very much a vegan-centric place, very much like London. I think 5% of them are, it's pretty good, plant-based. So Benjamin Netanyahu says, a subject which has gradually become more and more dear to my heart is I've been influenced by my family, by books which I've read, and by Tal herself, and I must add my dog now. Okay, so animal rights activist Tal Gilboa, he just made her part of his advisory, his council. So that you have an animal rights activist as one of the people who advises the prime minister, that's amazing. So I think you're seeing more and more. I'd like to see more and more. There are some shifts. Let's talk about more government and legal here. I'll just take you to this part first. Switzerland, they have enough signatures that Parliament is discussing putting on the ballot banning factory farming. I don't think it will pass, but it's on the ballot. People are starting to think about it. There's an animal welfare party in the UK, so I think you're starting to see, hopefully, a Green Party also encompass the animal rights. Here in the US, we've had a couple great things, so we probably know here in the state of Illinois, we are the third state to ban animal testing for cosmetics, which is wonderful. California has so many things all the time, it's just fantastic, but they're basically looking at banning fur. Los Angeles has banned fur, West Hollywood has banned fur, and San Francisco has, but those are cities. We're looking for the whole state to ban fur. We're looking at national legislation right now about banning traveling circuses and animals performing in circuses, period. The state of Illinois was the first state, 2017, to ban elephants performing, which was great. Linda Holmes, our senator here, I hope to have her here speak at the museum. She's wonderfully animal forward. She's trying to get bears, tigers, and
Lions? No.
I think lions, and like kangaroos and giraffes. But she's having a hard time. She's getting a lot of pushback. So it's not obvious. Upton's Naturals has just won a wonderful legal battle. So Upton's Naturals, along with the Plant-Based Food Association and the Justice, okay, I'm not sure who that third party is. It's a Justice League of some kind. They have, in Missouri, they were banned from using the words burgers, etc., meat, and those sorts of terms, and they just won that. In that now there's a new proposal on the table that plant-based companies can use terms like bacon and meat and burgers and things like that. So, you know, it's not clear legally or politically. And I guess what I'll say is this. Change never comes from the top down. I'm sure you know this. Politicians do not stand around and think, how can I make life better for you? That's not what they think about. Change comes from people on the ground say, I want it different. I want it differently. I'm going to vote according to it. I'm going to make my voice known, and I'm going to make my purchases differently. So the reason we're not seeing the political push that we'd like to see for 2020 is because we're not screaming loud enough. That is my personal opinion. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to come from the top down. No one is thinking about you. That's my thought. So what's the biggest hurdle to all this, where all the screaming really needs to happen, is all the talk that we've said about, oh, there's a push and a pull. Those market effects of a push and a pull do not work if there are subsidies in place. If you're just going to pay farmers more, not farmers really, I'll say the meat and dairy industry, more money for losing sales, they're not going to notice that they have losing sales, and they're just going to continue to do what they do, and they're not going to shift. So if we don't get rid of subsidies, you're not going to see real change. So this would be one of those things where we've got a big hurdle. Big, big, big hurdle. The Vegan Justice League is the only thing that I know of that is actively working on taking on subsidies. They're doing that in addition to the Plant-Based Foods Association, but the Plant-Based Food Association does a lot of things. The Vegan Justice League, which is brand new, you can look them up online. They are actively working at taking on subsidies. And I think the Plant-Based Food Association isn't looking so much to take on subsidies, but to say, well, if you're giving them money, you better give us money. Because if it's going to, either it's an equal playing field or it's not. So that change is really got to happen from the ground up. That's my perspective. Okay, so I hear a lot of talk like, oh, it's going to be a vegan world. I'm not so sure. I think so, but it's not inevitable and it's not a done deal by any means. Global meat is on the rise. As India becomes wealthier and China becomes wealthier, a status symbol is to buy more meat. Those are huge countries. So, it's nothing like in Europe and in America, meat consumption is on the decline, but globally, it's pushed by India and China, it's up 2%. Not a whole heck of a lot, but it's up. Blended products, if these things start coming on and get to call themselves plant-based, I don't know what that's going to do. Lactose-free milk. So we talked about 65% of America is lactose intolerant. Now, Fairlife, they were part of the scandal right here, headquartered here in Chicago. They were part of the animal recovery scandal. They're putting out something called lactose-free milk. I was hiking in Bhutan, and I was, not a lot of Americans in Bhutan. I end up finding a hiking partner on the trail who works high up at Cargill. He's an engineer, and he said they're getting out of cows altogether, way too efficient. I think I told you, chickens, it's 9 calories of grain for 1 calorie of protein. Cows is something like 35 to 1, and I'm not kidding. Cows are the most inefficient things on the planet, and sweet things on the planet. So he was saying they're out of cows altogether, but they're looking at how they can make chickens more efficient. And so they're really investing and doubling down in chicken. And as they look to get away from growing so much grain because of the monocrop issue that we talked about and how much space the grain takes that then they give to the chickens, they're trying to grow kelp instead of grain to feed to chickens. And they find that that's more sustainable so that they can grow the kelp sustainably and then keep the chicken farms running. Not clear to me that we have a plant-based world in our future when I hear things like this. I'll do this and then I'll come back to fake news, which has been around all week. So we've got farming transformation that we have to do. We've got tech challenges, we've got scalability, we've got jobs. It's not obvious to me. Look what happened this week. Okay, this is Reuters, and at least they were willing to tell part of the truth. At least in the headline they say steak is back, if you really believe the new study. Who followed this and how much do you know about it? Okay, you know the headlines. Do you know? Okay, so just super fast, because I may be going over. I don't know how long I've been going, but someone give me a time cue. What time is it?
3.
It's 3. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up real fast here. Okay. Study came out. It was not a new study. It was a compilation of existing studies, and the existing studies said things anywhere from 6% to like 63% cancer reduction, depending on what kind of cancer, esophageal cancer or breast cancer. So it had some smaller numbers, it had some larger numbers, and this Canadian body decided that their recommendation, after reviewing all these existing studies, they were going to compile it and make a new study, and their recommendation, after seeing a decrease, some small, some large, was that let's just not bother. Our recommendation is that these numbers aren't big enough, and that ultimately people don't like to change their behavior, so you're not going to get them to change their behavior, so just don't bother recommending them to change their behavior. In other words, you have a tooth that hurts. Nobody likes going to the dentist, so just let your mouth rot. That's what they're saying, and of course, the press picked that up. No, and shame on the press for, you know what I mean? And here they say, we don't believe the study, but we're giving you the headline anyway because we want it. So the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine filed a complaint to the Federal Trade Commission saying you just can't get up there and say nonsense. All right, sorry, I do have a couple more slides, but we're working it down super fast. It's a lot of information, isn't it? I'm trying to keep it heavy too, but it's a lot to talk about. Okay, so that was government, but we also have culture. So there's a big push right now about food injustice, and it's coming from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Also here at Cook County, we're working on it, and Switch for Good. So you have a lot of advertisement towards Asian Americans and African Americans to drink and eat dairy, they can't handle it, and they're push these products anyway. Food injustice, food insecurity in our own United States is going to be a big deal. So this is going to be another push towards plant-based, because this is going to blow up. Watch for this a lot in the media. It's pretty egregious. And who remembers things like the Tuskegee studies? Okay, it's going to be that. So look for it. The Game Changers. I was going to show the clip of the Game Changers. This is me interviewing everybody at Sundance. That's Danny and Mander. I was going to show a clip of the Game Changers, but that's helping to change our culture. So our culture is giving a push too. You don't have to be a real man to eat meat. Real men actually protect the vulnerable. Real men don't beat up on animals, women, and children. Real men protect the vulnerables. That's what a real man does, according to Game Changers, among many other things. So our culture is pushing us out. Okay, this is a talking, I just want to see how far okay. This is a talking point. And basically, these are some things you can say when people say to you, oh yeah, but I was raised on meat, or what about my protein, or we've always done this. So I always say, if you really want to be American, let me rephrase. It is your American duty to get behind plant-based, because it is a food war out there, and if you don't want America to sit in the back of the bus, because China is going to beat us, they've got food security reasons, and they are working on this very hard. American innovation is where we shine. It's where we've always shined. It's the most American thing to be forward-thinking, business forward. So if you're not supporting American innovation, it's the most un-American thing you can do. Not to mention that if you really were pro-farmer, you would help that poor farmer, which has a very tricky time with meat and dairy. There's just not the margins in there. So you're going to make more good vegetables as we talk about having better resources, using less water, using less land. I believe that the vegetable farmer is going to be much better off as we move towards it. Okay, a lot of people say, well, it's my tradition. I grew up on this. Well, I'm guessing that nobody replied to this event today via a U.S. post and a stamp. I'm guessing you all used something called a computer. And then I'm guessing you sent an email. And I'm guessing you didn't take a horse and buggy to get here either. I'm guessing you used something called a car. Right, okay, so things change. Our tradition changes. So we no longer have horse and buggy, we now have cars. We're going to move into plant-based meat. Okay, when I interviewed Josh Falk from the United States Humane Society of the United States, he was saying, this is the only area where Republicans and Democrats actually agree. Very few people, whether they're right or to the right or to the left, say, oh, I'm okay with hurting animals. Even when it means you pay more, people vote for animals when they get to the ballot. So if you can get that bill on the ballot to be voted for, they will vote for it. So, I don't know. And then here I'm just quoting Dr. Kim Williams again from Rush. We are about to bankrupt Medicare because there's so many people who are turning 65 and they're all sick. According to him, 97% of Americans are heart unhealthy. So you're going to bankrupt healthcare, and he says it is your American duty to go vegan, which is why I love him. But ultimately, the whole point of this, what is the state of the plant-based union? It is the time of the empowered consumer. Because as you watch TV and you think this crazy person on the left, this crazy person on the right, it really doesn't matter to the left or to the right. No one is looking out for your best interests. And the way to get your best interests heard, sure, you can stand on the street corner with a sign. I do that every once in a while, and it is better. So I do that every once in a blue moon. But really vote with your dollars. You don't have to wait 4 years to vote. You can vote 3 times a day. Because you tell those companies and you tell government, this is where I'm going, and they will follow you according to your dollars. So that's how you make your voice heard. So, yes, that is you. That is you saying you want something new and you're spending your dollars for it. Okay, I have a really funny clip here of me interviewing Moby when he compares meat to crystal meth, but I don't know how to run it. So I'm just going to say that in addition to, obviously, you get that I have this podcast, Awesome Vegans, I also do cooking classes in my home, and I do menu preparation, menu planning. So if you ever need help, or you know people who are trying to start, but they need somebody to reorganize their kitchen and help them in the grocery store to buy the right things, I do personal stuff like that. And then in addition, you've maybe heard me on radio or TV, just to show you how I do a lot of radio and TV interviews talking about, because it's a lot of information and a lot of people sort of have trouble putting it all together and how does it all fit, and you're getting all this news. Man Cow on WLS, has anybody ever heard of this person? They just asked me to come in and talk about plant-based burgers and bring them in so that you could try them. So you never know, like, you know, it's getting there. And in our interview, can't really call that an interview, but in the thing, that was madness and like bells and whistles going on all the time, so it was really weird. It was another dimension for sure. But in our thing, he said, I grew up in Missouri, and I love to eat hamburger, and I love to eat steak, but I will tell you, I worked on a ranch as a kid, and people think cows are stupid animals. They're not. They're smart. They're sensitive. They have personalities. This is man cow talking. So, you know, I think we can reach people. He loved the Beyond Meat sausage. He was all over it. So I think we can reach people. Anyways, I have that podcast. You can find it anywhere. I do a lot of radio and TV. So if there's any news that you want me to know about, that you want me to talk about, I have a monthly radio show on WCPT called Food and Politics. Anything you want me to talk about, be sure to send to me so I can get that up. I do a lot on WGN Radio. I do some cooking demos on WGN TV. So all that great stuff. And basically just find me at ElysabethAlfano.com. I don't know, whatever, that's me. So it's long. It's a lot of information. It's been a long talk. Does anybody have questions or comments, or do you just feel like getting up and walking around? Yes?
I'm wondering what your thoughts are on regarding the 2020 election and candidates, for example, Cory Booker, in the CNN debate, not being willing when asked to embrace, when given a chance, any sort of comment or position on his eating preferences. Do you have any thoughts on why, or, you know, like, I don't know, just reflection on that?
Yes. My reflection is, you know, I don't know how to do anything here except what is, but I highly recommend going to, I want to say it's animalwellness.org. The former president, Wayne Caselli of the Humane Society, he started a new organization called Animal Wellness, and he has mapped out every candidate and what they stand for and how they vote and their voting records, and you can, right there on the website, email every one of them. This is where it comes back to us. Remember I said the empowered consumer? It's going to take us because they're not going to do it for us. You can go to that website, you can see how everyone has voted in the past, what their stance is, and then you can email them and tell them. So I highly recommend you do that. I've of course done it, animalwellness.org, and if I've got that wrong, hit me up by email. Okay, Cory Booker, opportunity lost. I'm not going to say I don't understand his position, but I do, it's an opportunity lost. I would have hoped that he would have been out front, and I think it's an opportunity lost for him, not just for us, but for him, because as a competitor, when you stand out in front, you stand apart. I think he didn't take a stand. I don't know if he's going to make it to the end. I do understand that it's probably a little early, but like I said, the last people to get with the program are the politicians. So it's not surprising to me that he's not out in front.
What did he say? I don't know what he didn't say.
Oh,
They asked specifically, like, you know, you don't eat meat and dairy. Is that something that you, if elected, are going to, a direction you're going to move the country? And he was like, no, absolutely not. And that's all he said about
He
it.
said that I'm actually going to say that in Spanish.
Yeah.
No.
Right. So he really had an opportunity where he could have spoken to, because he is, I believe he's vegan. And so of all people,
I didn't know that.
yeah, and so he not only, you know, did he just really miss an opportunity, which completely didn't engage whatsoever. And as someone who's, it's not even that he's not vegan, he actually is vegan. And so I was just curious your thoughts on, especially him being vegan.
Especially
him. And go anywhere.
Yeah, I thought he could have helped himself by taking a strong stand. Sort of in the way, dating myself here, who remembers, I think it was Bob Dole, oh my gosh. It was on gun control, and somebody asked him, well, if you came in and your wife was being attacked, would you advocate for a gun at that time? And he said, no, I wouldn't. And a great thing would have been, of course I would, that's my wife. But thank God the laws keep me from, but in the moment, I'm so passionate, he could have said, I love it for me. It's the environment, it's the smartest choice. But, it's a stepping stone, and it's not something I would push, and it's a personal choice. And I would never push it on anyone. He could have gone so many ways, and he just lost that opportunity for himself and then us, I thought. So that was annoying.
Yeah, but that's like Cowspiracy. I mean, that's what environmental groups do the same thing. Somebody's either afraid of getting money, I don't know.
Well, this is a big concern because Greta was talking a lot about animal agriculture being vegan a year ago. Almost doesn't mention it.
Mhm.
So some people say like it got into her. I don't know if I would go that far, but maybe she's being counseled that just don't take off more than you can chew, and just get people to start caring about the environment, and then we'll really tell them. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's what she's doing, but she's not talking about it anymore. So that's kind of disappointing. Yeah.
So in your opinion, since this movement is growing so quickly and all that, I mean, and probably like many of us here have been like even before it became popular. What is the best way for you, like, do you think that we can approach other people, and like help them switch diets and become more open to plant-based?
Yes, I love this. So one of the reasons I do cooking classes and I do online videos and I help people and cook for them and stuff is because, and one of the reasons whenever I go to radio and I'm going to be with ManCal, food first. Food forward first. We have some wonderful restaurateurs in the audience. You've probably been to Kalish. If not, you have to go. They're opening a new house, so you know. Okay. So I mean, food first. They have a cupcake at Kalish. It's the caramel salted thing. It's so good. Food first. I don't even talk to people. I just give them food. Yes.
So, we're in business. My wife owns Kalish. We're in business because, well, we have to make money. And she made a decision that she wanted to have a plant-based restaurant. We started off with the word short order vegan under the name Kalish. That really kind of held some people at bay. We recognized it because people would tell us that. And so we peeled the word vegan off of most everything that we do, except our URL, and referred to what we did as being plant-based. And now it's just simply the name Kalish that stands up ahead of everything. And our business has never been more successful. And we're grateful for all the vegans and the plant-based people that come in there. But if we're going to move the dial in any direction towards what it is that you've been discussing, it's about grabbing the flexitarians, the 80% of the people that walk through our door who consume our food, they're omnivores. And you said you vote 3 times a day, with a meal. People are just looking for good food. We just found that let's not beat anyone over the head, let's not, put a message on it. You're doing it anyhow. We know that you're making a difference when you walk in here. We don't have to remind you, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, I love this. I'll add to what I said and kind of rip off what he said, but food first, and then live your best life. So that's kind of what he's talking about. You don't need to say it because you're happy, you're healthy, you have energy. I'm about to be 53. Okay, I've been talking up here with a lot of facts in my head for a long time. I mean, I'm vegan and you can see it. I don't know. So, not like I'm so great. They're vegan, you can see it. I mean, I think living that best life. And then if people want to hear it, you're ready with facts about health. And one other thing that I'll say is, people are always sort of arguing with me about it maybe, or pushing me on the protein. And I always say, I got the health and I got the energy. But I got this huge lift of joy because I wasn't part of that big machine. I don't even mention animals, but we all know it's there. I'm not part of that machine anymore. So again, I think just like living your joy and moving forward with food is a little
like just showing other people, that you're a healthy, happy person is way more powerful than being preachy. Which is one of the things that we get criticized over, right?
Sure,
but also things like using the word vegan versus plant-based. For example, do you think it's more beneficial, like in the long term, to just talk about like plant-based foods rather than vegan foods?
It's with a sad note. that I say, just meet people where they are, so that's probably plant-based,
Right.
or even I go down from there. I often, when I talk on radio or TV, I'm always talking about just like, work more plants in, work some meat out, like, go meatless Monday, just try to help yourself, give yourself a boost by like cutting back. You know, I try to make it really a priority. And sometimes I don't even say plant-based, I just say like, you know, give your body a break and give your spirit a lift.
And I know this, like, in my family, because there a lot of people are not vegan in my family, but we'll do things that are vegan when we're all together because of us. And so it just kind of happens. And now a couple people are starting to go more plant-based, they're telling me, you know, without saying a word. Cousins in Wisconsin, Major Cheese, invited us to a family reunion. We're doing vegan this year. So, yeah. So little things like that, I think, because if you get preachy, it just, they don't want to hear it. Even if you say, like I can say in my family, I'm trying to save your asses, okay? And they don't want to hear it, you know.
But I do the same. I love to cook for people, and whenever we have big family things, Christmas, and I do all the cooking, and I don't even tell people it's vegan. I make this awesome lasagna. If you want any of the recipes,
They know.
They know. That's okay. They know. But you know, they always say like, I can't even tell or I can't even taste. So if you go to my website, ElysabethAlfano.com, there's an incredible lasagna recipe. I'm telling you, no one can tell the difference, and it really makes a difference for people when they think I don't have to sacrifice, and they're having fun with it. Okay, folks, I'm going to be around for a while, so save yourselves, move around. You can ask me any questions or ask Kay questions.
Oh, do you know about Billie Eilish?
Yes.
Yeah, she's reached on Saturday Night Live so many people.
Yes.
With
yes.
Woody Harrelson.
Yes, right, with Woody Harrelson. That was so great. Yeah, she's really a powerhouse. And you're just
Yeah.
seeing more, and she doesn't mince her words.
Right.
Which is what I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unlike Ellen, who has a lot of people she has to appease.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, should we stop?
Yeah, this did great.
Bye, everybody.